I remember my high school years, running with the in crowd, cramming for tests, staying up late, walking my teacher's dog, getting dragged up a jungle gym, going to outer space, getting picked up by a flying saucer. Different times, man. No phones. No phone screen addiction. Instead, we had an addiction to television and crack, and unless you had cable, you were stuck with like 4 networks, public broadcasting, and my dear sweet preview guide channel. Who needs Spotify when you got this banger 24/7? With so few options, you were stuck with whatever the networks showed you. And they showed you some weird shit back in the grunge era, including today's topic, the postmodern masterpiece Zazu U, which brought us talking crayons, rapping buzzards, and the meaning of life. That's right, you could learn the meaning of life from this cartoon. Too bad nobody watched it. In my last video, I described the inaugural season of the Fox Kids programming block, which had been created out of both necessity and spite. The network, not my video. Maybe a little spite. That year, 1990, was a pivotal time in children's television because the Children's Television Act had been signed into law. Now programming had to contain educational material and limit advertising. So the networks shifted their focus from toys and video games to more creative properties, and the fledgling Fox Kids network needed some unique programming to distinguish itself from the competition. Today's topic certainly did that, but maybe not for the best. Fox Kids launched on September 8, 1990, and one of the first cartoons it aired was Zazu U, which had 13 episodes in its singular season. Leading up to the premiere, viewers had been given glimpses of the show through print ads and promos, and let me tell ya, this bizarre amalgamation of badly drawn beasts will catch your attention.
Sit up straight and pay attention.
We gotta see this.
Cause Zazu U is now in session.
The show takes place at the learning institution Zazu U, populated entirely by animal characters. So a whole bunch of animals, like a zoo, crammed into a university, hence Zazu U. See, we're wrinkling our smooth brains here. The ages of the characters are never specified. Sometimes they feel like college students ready to enter the job field, and sometimes they act like infantile school kids, but that's part of the charm, being relatable to kids of all ages. The school is also not specifically referred to as a college or a high school or private chartered money laundering front or whatever. It just is what it is, no more no less. In other words, somebody gotta investigate this place. Zazu Diploma Mill. Now let's meet the students. The de facto main character is Boink, who is a frog? Some kind of bug? A trilobite? I don't know what he is, but I do know what he is. A fashion upstart. Those giant boots and bandana paired with those puffy pants? Giddy up, king! Boink is voiced by actor Michael Horton, best known for his recurring role on Murder, She Wrote. I appreciate that he didn't go for a standard cartoon guy voice.
One-stop shopping for all your philosophical and musical needs.
Instead, Boink sounds like Christian Slater, doing an impression of Jack Nicholson.
Sometimes my blood has more fun than I do.
Just so cool in the 90s, guys. You don't even know. Boink is joined by his platonic bestie, Tess, the cat? But with a bunny tail? I'm starting to think that maybe these characters aren't actual animals, but fantastical combinations of animals. Ungodly chimeras cast from heaven into the abyss. Oh my god, they're wuzzles! That explains it. Anyways, Toss is a tomboy, tongue-tied there. Tess is a tomboy, an archetype that seems to dominate this era of cartoons, but man, chopped wardrobe, like Jazzercise meets Three Ring Circus.
I just can't believe the meaning of life comes from the back of a box of cereal.
Tess is voiced by actress Susan Silo, and there's something I love about her voice. There's a healthy, sardonic grit to her tone.
I feel like a new refrigerator being delivered.
And the third man in their trio is Grizzle, the gross-out character. And I'm pretty sure he's just a normal pig, but at least he doesn't have to worry about that forbidden zone or whatever. Just like a pig stereotype, he's a gluttonous, lazy slob that smells like a bounce house full of corpses. He may be smelly and gross, but come on, steal his look.
Brings me closer to the world's smell record.
He's voiced by Jerry Hauser, most remembered as Oski from the summer of '42. You know, the movie with that fuck-ass theme song.
Well, enough soul searching. We got shop class.
Also attending Zazu U is Bully. At first I thought he was a bull elephant, hence Bully, but ends up he's a... what did I write here?
Bully Mully Whammoth.
Well, at least one of these wuzzles gets a proper taxonomy. His main character quirk is that he plays the piano, and when he's not tickling the ivories, he's pushing his instrument around the school hallways where it inevitably gets crushed. A man goes through pianos like Kleenex. That's gotta be expensive. Spend less on pianos. No. Bully is voiced by Brian Cummings, famous to me for...
And now, our feature presentation.
And his voice in this cartoon sounds like, if Richard Nixon were reading a book to children and had to do an elephant's voice.
Oh, a lot of music in this old piano.
I like it.
Totally that. Tumbling around the halls are the Benito brothers, Slogo and Logan, who would rather be in the circus with their family than go to school. Their voices and characters are just generic Eastern European stereotypes.
Oh, please do hurry, Slogo. We are late.
School? Who needs it?
Are they bugs? Parasites? Workers? Of the faculty, there's the head of the school, Miss Devine, the fashion-forward diva dog from Madison Avenue. Right away you can tell she's voiced by Tress MacNeille.
Once again, fashion triumphs. Just put your mind to it, that's what minds are for.
Listen, my first instinct was to do a whole Yas Queen about this character, but Miss Devine kinda low-key annoys me. However, her eccentric confidence and McNeil's flamboyant performance helped make the character tolerable.
Police children, no prayer in school. You should have studied.
And she's got this scuzzy little creature, Rarf, and no, this is not a dog with a dog, it's a dog with a Rarf, its own unique thing. I don't like his weird spindly rat legs, but the flower pot is a cool surrealist element, really elevates the whole design. Now there's this weird recurring bit through the show. Grizzle and Rarf are like arch enemies.
Oh, now this is living another year of Rarf-ragging.
Rarf is always messing with Grizzle, and Grizzle continually terrorizing his teacher's pet. Like, literal pet. Imagine picking a fight with your principal's labradoodle. What a strange life you must lead. The other teachers appear infrequently, but have important roles. The science teacher, Dr. Russell, is a walrus with a Fraser Crane vocabulary.
Perhaps we ought to delve into the Freudian implications of reveries and their related manifestations, sometimes referred to as truncular syndrome.
Then there's the geography teacher, Mr. Seymour, who got stuck in his television and now teaches from a screen.
I'm bored with Bora Bora and mad at Madagascar.
Meaning he is stuck in a perpetual teleconference meeting, which honestly sounds worse than literal hell. And there's Professor Zork, the music teacher. He doesn't say anything, he just waddles around angrily and hits things. Really giving Pingu vibes. And let's not forget Chomper, the little yellow bugger who chomps things. Pac-Man, never heard of him.
Wonder why they call him Chomper.
He really feels out of place, like he should be some background creature on Smiling Friends. And he contributes nothing to the story. I kinda like him. And last but not least, we have the MCs of the evening, Raldo and Buck, the rapping buzzards, who introduce and close the show. Buck beatboxes while Raldo does his slam poetry thing.
Can you believe your luck? It's Raldo and Buck. Time to get another show unstuck.
Throughout the episodes, they also transition the scenes, which is a fun way to break up the action and indicate to the viewer when the location is changing, which is important in a cartoon that is 80% white background.
I told him I wanted to move to the country. Not move the country.
The Buzzards are voiced by actor Dorian Harewood, who has a background in musical theater, making him a good fit for this role. Also, I like the detail that they're wearing bling with their initials, R&B. I love when couples match. The show itself is a nightmare, a real Sudafed fever dream. And I mean that as a compliment, believe it or not. We're all familiar with cartoon logic. Take, for example, a character cutting a plank of wood. Logically, the part of the plank not supported by the structure would fall, but because we are dealing with the art of subversive humor, the floating section stays up while the rest of the structure collapses. We don't get anything that simple in Zazu U. Watch this scene, for example. The students are all rocking out while Professor Zork gets lost in the music and breaks his baton. Boing picks it up and uses it as a pencil to draw an exit, and they go to the next scene. Why did they leave? There was no indication that they wanted to go, they just go. And how did the baton turn into a pencil? Its very nature was not merely subverted, but transformed altogether. This is less cartoon logic and more dream logic, or lack of logic. Things just kinda move and sway without reason, defying physics and dimension, like you're floating through a fast-paced simulation. With its amorphous shapes and blank backgrounds, I really am reminded of psychedelic tunes of the 70s like Sally Cruikshank's Quasi at the Quackadero, or the Fred Wolf Harry Nilsson project The Point. Both masterpieces, by the way. Now, it's not all surreal nonsense. Each episode presents a moral in the form of a poem, narrated towards the climax of the story when the characters are ready to learn their lesson. And I'll admit, these poems are cute and heartfelt. Meant for children, but in a way that's, timeless to all audiences. So you can't say this cartoon is pointless brain rot. It's educational and mentally nourishing. So please don't report it to the FCC for breaking the Children's Television Act of 1989. Thanks. But who wrote these poems? And who came up with Zazu U in the first place? What if I just didn't answer that? What if the video just ended right here? Wouldn't that be the ultimate subversion? Well, I don't want to withhold credit from this guy. Shane DeRolf was an art school dropout turned children's author and poet. In 1997, he published his tour de force, The Grand Box That Talked, which became a standard poetry lesson in elementary schools throughout the country. You probably recognize it. It's the one that's I don't like red. Whoa. Oh, his palm's out. I thought it was his middle. Oh, yeah, anyways. And Green said, nor do I. And no one here likes orange, but no one knows just why. I have a few theories. But I don't think many people realize that the poem first appeared in 1990 on an episode of Zazu U, which was created and produced by DeRolf. Based on interviews, I can tell that DeRolf is an eccentric creative, which explains his bizarro kids show. I'd love to know how this series was pitched, but whatever the case, it fit the bill of giving Fox Kids a unique flavor. Edgier, more progressive, an MTV attitude that the Fox network sought for its brand. The teleplays were written by married couple Pamela Hickey and Denise McCoy, who have a long resume of cartoon credits. And listen, you can keep your hockey romances. I want a romance centered around writing psychedelic cartoons for kids. Me and who, seriously. The theme song was written by DeRolf and Richard Carson Morton, who performed the music. It's got a Heartbreak Hotel kind of vibe. The whole cut is on Morton's YouTube channel if you want to take a listen. Animation was handled by Film Roman, the production company that animated Bobby's World, and eventually key production of The Simpsons. It's the fourth time I've mentioned The Simpsons. I didn't introduce a drinking game, but you would die. So about the animation. In my last video, I gave Pigsburg Pigs and Peter Pan and the Pirates and Peter Piper Picked a Peck of Pickled Peppers a hard time about their animation. But let's be honest, the animation in Zazu U is worse, and yet, I like it a whole lot better. I think it suits the mood, the DIY attitude. All the animation errors and miscolorings and awkward motions help support the notion that this is a self-aware cartoon. It knows its limitations, it breaks the fourth wall. Raldo and Buck literally push scenes aside. It's not polished, and for that, the stories feel very alive. And now you're wondering, what are these stories? I'm not going to give a thorough summary of each episode. You can watch the series for yourself here on YouTube, or on Yield Archive, but I do want to give a notion of the nutritional content of each episode. Episode 1, The 9 Mile Pile. Most of this episode concerns itself with introducing the characters, the setting, and the oddball pace of the show. The main trio banters, music notes become tangible, the minimalist background is destroyed, and live-action kids squash the characters. Did I mention that was a thing that happens? Because that's a thing that happens. All the while, a big pile of litter grows and grows on the campus, all because everyone was too lazy to clean up after themselves. After realizing what a mess they've made, the quote-unquote narrator recites a poem called The 9 Mile Pile, about how casual apathy can avalanche into an environmental disaster. So our trio of friends decide to clean the aggro crag of stock photos by... Okay, I forgot to mention. There's a weird plot mechanic introduced at the beginning of the episode where shouting the name of a piece of heavy machinery will cause it to magically fall from the sky.
Bulldozer? Yeah!
Makes sense. So how to solve the problem of the 9 Mile Pile?
We're gonna need some heavy equipment.
I wish real environmentalism was that easy. I'd use that Tyrannosaurus excavator to eat all the billionaires in their stupid data centers. Born to die, pile as a fuck. Episode 2, The Cranbox That Talked. And how they talked. They just wouldn't shut up. In this delightful story, Gristle sneaks into the teacher's lounge, which is a literal lounge, with a literal lounge singer who is a literal lounge lizard.
Even you, Professor Zork, you funny little... Ow!
And this has nothing to do with the plot, it's just there for vibes. The story actually begins when Miss Devine sets up a graffiti wall and invites all the students to leave their mark. Okay, we only ever see 7 students, but we can assume there's more somewhere. Oh look, there's some. 9 students. Rarf, meanwhile, and yes, this little guy leads his own life, gets a hold of an enchanted trophy that contains his fairy Rarf mother.
Just make a wish and let me do my stuff.
I was expecting a genie, but this is far more upsetting. I like the cactus hat, though. It's very 90s Weird Austin. She asks for his wish, but misinterprets a talking book for Rarf.
The crayon box that talked.
Boy, howdy, that has got to be the dad-burnedest, all-out, stupidest wish I ever heard.
And thus brings the crayons to life. You know, there's comedy of errors, but I don't think any phrase in the English language can embody the events that have occurred here. We soon realize that all the crayons are assholes who proclaim that they are the best color. Rarf teams up with brown, Grizzle with yellow, Tess with pink, and, that white crayon is making me nervous.
No black crayon! I won't allow it. In fact, I want you to make everything white.
Hey, it's Carolyn Levitt. Then there's the famous poem at the end of the episode, but I'm gonna come back to this. Let's move on to episode 3, The Search for the Meaning of Life. This is one of the most infamous episodes because it has such a strange setup for a Saturday morning cartoon. Tess questions why she has to go to gym class, then questions why we have to do anything at all. What's the point of everything? Miss Divine tries to be her mentor, but in typical elitist behavior, resorts to superficiality and materialism to fill the void. After a whole series of things that happen, Bully returns from outer space with a VHS about the meaning of life. But this being Zazu U, it's not enough for Tess to watch the tape. She has to use Mr. Seymour's TV to travel into the tape and climb the Mountain of Enlightenment, where Boink is working at a fast food restaurant that serves the meaning of life. And this is my favorite clip of the series.
Ready to order?
Oh yeah, one meaning of life, please.
You want fries with that?
Uh-huh, I missed lunch.
This leads Tess to the Tunnel of Love, where a poem is read that explains that the meaning of life is to enjoy the ride.
Well, it's nothing very special.
I have thoughts, but I'll save that for the end. Episode 4, Yesterday's Zoo. After a jam session goes nuclear, Boink, Tess, and Bully go on a quest to find the janitor in the fabled janitor's closet. They split up. Boink discovers a room full of gigantic toys, Bully plays a piano in the infinity chamber, and Tess meets a touch-starved typewriter.
Please, just for a little while, just so I can feel, used.
My keyboard said use me. I'd just give up on writing. I can't deal with that level of sexual codependence. Speaking of sexual codependence, Rarf gains an admirer. This'll go well, I'm sure. Meanwhile, Grizzle battles the odds in home economics, but that's a B-plot, so who cares? Back to the others. The kids meet up and locate the janitor, who is totally not named Bob.
Name's Carl. Just plain Carl.
Well, it says Bob on your suit.
Maybe I just want to confuse folks.
And he takes them to a secret part of the school called Yesterday's Zoo, a place that houses all the species of Earth that have gone extinct. And we have a heartfelt poem about the fragility of life and the permanence of extinction.
And hope that I can simplify without too much confusion. All these friends I never knew are now a part of Yesterday's Zoo.
And then we get back to Grizzle feeding pet food to Miss Divine while the rat lady finally gets Rarf. So did anything outside of the poem have to do with extinction? Nothing. But I wouldn't say the moral is arbitrarily tacked on. It reminds me of when you're on psychedelics and you're just screwing around with a spirograph and then you suddenly have an epiphany that brings you to tears. It's like that, but with more Rarf. Stop buying these damn designer pets. There's plenty of monstrosities in the shelter that need a home. Episode 5 is Bigger Better. All his life, Bully has told himself that bigger is better. But a series of dreams has him questioning his mantra.
Is bigger better?
So he puts his motto to the test by making gigantic things in shop class to varying success. Meanwhile, Boink puts on a pair of shrinking cargo shorts and experiences the world as a bug. And his adventure brings him to King Kong for some reason. Or is that Donkey Kong? He's wearing a tie. Anyways, Bully's giant piano falls through the floor and smashes Mr. Seymour. In order to fix him, Bully and Boink must work together, uniting the powers of big and small. But not before accidentally putting on an episode of The Simpsons.
You can't take that book away from him. It's his homework.
No son of mine is going to poison his mind reading this Kafka book.
But Dad, I'll flunk lit class.
If you're ignoring the advice of medical professionals and playing the Simpsons reference drinking game, this doesn't count. Completely different show. It's The Simpsons. The friends repair Seymour and Bully performs a song about how size doesn't matter because we all have our talents. But really, I want to watch more of The Simpsons.
This stuff stinks. You read this, the next thing you know, you wake up a human.
Hey man, don't have an aphid.
Finally, episode 6, Harvey and Sue. Not much to this one, honestly. Tess and Grizzle have a falling out, Boink falls in the class aquarium, and the frenemies must work together to rescue him. Wackiness ensues. Then there's a poem about two fish named Harvey and Sue, who are polar opposites but become friends anyways. And isn't that just the least we can hope for?
Maybe you guys want a hug or something?
Yeah.
And if you've been paying attention, you'll remember that I said there were 13 episodes of this series, but I only recapped 6. Well, that is because only 6 episodes are available online. When Zazu U was released on DVD in 2007, there were only 3 volumes containing 2 wacky episodes each. The rest are effectively lost media, but wait, what's this? A French dub of episode 12 was found online? Well, I'd watch that, but
Et voilà le travail, l'aboutissement de tous mes efforts, le stade final de mes travaux, le couronnement de toute une vie.
Ouais, je reconnais que t'as la main verte, Nana.
yeah, I don't mind that you're French, just don't do it in front of me. Of these lost episodes, I really want to see episode 13, Boink's Rap. I need to hear this cat spit rhymes.
Fun with Cartesian dualism.
I kind of think that it's appropriate that the show has an unfinished feeling to it. Like The Castle by Franz Kafka or Dead Souls by, Nick Google? We can only imagine what the rest of the body of work looks like, but now it's time to really analyze what we do see here. Let's first watch another scene. In episode 2, Slogo takes the orange crayon and draws Kushki, the folklore monster from the old country.
Oh, no, I don't want to see picture of Kushki. It's too scary.
Kushki comes to life and wreaks havoc on its creator. Just like all creative projects tend to do. The brothers hide in the music room where Professor Zork and the monster have a baton fight, until Kushki just houses them. Ends up the monster is a giant machine, so Zork finds his way to the steerage, takes control of Kushki, and conducts class from the belly of the beast. Makes sense? It's not just the weirdness that makes this cartoon stand out. It's the combination of surreal plot and outlandish art framed in the context of a children's cartoon that elevates this whole project into the realm of fine art. Cinema. Earlier I had called this a postmodern masterpiece. Now what does that mean in this context? Let me first define postmodernism. In this 13-hour video essay, I will guide you. That's why Peppa Pig is basically a ripoff of Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. Uh-oh. I just lost all that footage. Oh well, I'll just say it again, but I'll keep it short this time. Postmodernism is, practically speaking, a rather useless phrase, in and of itself. It only carries weight when contrasted against the concept of modernism. Now, what's modernism? For our situation of overthinking a 30-year-old cartoon, I'll say that modernism was a turn-of-the-century artistic movement that pushed beyond classical notions of antiquity and rode the technological tsunami that restructured a world that was slowly becoming secularized. Modernism concerns itself with the metaphysical, the philosophical fabric of the universe itself, because modernists seek the universal truth at the heart of all things. Then the world descended into chaos and destruction. Artistic movements after World War II pushed against the idea of a unified truth, seeing the world as a subjective experience that exists only in the perception of the observer, and the observer is merely a construct of language and environment. In this perspective, art does not bring us closer to God, but disassembles the false pretenses that present themselves as gods. Postmodern art, in particular, concerns itself less with establishing a cohesive aesthetic, so much as deconstructing conventional narratives of the preceding era, thus inhibiting the centralized powers that perpetuate our obedience towards big machines. Big machines like governments, not Kushki. Again, this is all watered down and kind of cherry-picked just to make my point in my silly little YouTube video, so don't use me as a resource in your term paper. You will fail. And die. Also, I know a lot of my peeps out there love to categorize things, and they can go on all day about what constitutes something being black metal or death metal, but modernism and postmodernism are not genres. They cannot be defined by universal characteristics the way something like romance or rocksteady or mascot horror can. Postmodernism is an anthropological zeitgeist that measures the major movements of art rather than defining a singular work of art. That's not to say postmodernism doesn't have common aspects among all attributed works. In literature and film, we tend to see atypical narratives, such as stories that are told backwards or out of order. We also see plenty of pastiche and metafiction, devices that break the immersion of a story and remind the viewer that, yes, you are experiencing a work of fiction, and we are manipulating you with our lies. Major masterpieces of postmodernism include the works of Thomas Pynchon, The Recognitions and J.R. by William Gaddis, God, these are heavy, and John Barth's Sawweed Factor and Lost in the Funhouse. Now you, Funhouse, you go stand in the corner. So with all that in mind, we can look at a work of art like Zazu U as being a deconstruction of Saturday morning cartoons. It doesn't follow a safe formula, doesn't concern itself with being marketable, and dredges itself in quizzical dialogue that is surely too advanced for its demographic. Remember, Zazu U was meant to redefine what networks broadcast for children, and thus had to break some of the old expectations for Saturday morning programming. It does, however, maintain the life advice of its predecessors, but rather than being a tacked-on PSA...
Remember, taking something that isn't yours just isn't right.
Remember, taking something that isn't yours just isn't right.
Just because you want something doesn't mean you can take it.
It integrates the moral into the plot, and allows the climactic poem to speak for itself. Even then, it's up to the viewer, a small child, to interpret the meaning of the poem, because there's no character who appears on screen to tell you what to think. You have to deduce the meaning for yourself.
Wriggle them smooth brains.
Speaking of meaning, a big indicator about the postmodern nature of this show is the meaning of life. Whereas a romantic might settle on a nice platitude like hard work or love or some crap like that, Zazu U's narrator tells us,
life is like a ride in the tunnel of love. Sometimes it's dark, and sometimes it's scary. Especially when it's big, green, and hairy. But sometimes it's happy. And sometimes it's sweet. And sometimes a good time to just take a seat. Have a nice ride, Tess.
In other words, there's no universal truth, aside from the fact that the experience of life is a sometimes terrifying and sometimes beautiful ride. We have no obligation to serve a pre-established purpose because existence differs for every person. See, we as a species are very diverse, and our greatest threat, both to ourselves and to others, is the notion of supremacy. The idea that there is one correct way to do something, that there is one person or group far greater and more valuable than any other. A core component of postmodernism that I don't see talked about enough is the rejection of nationalism and supremacy. The postmodernists witnessed the consolidation of authority into a central power that nearly destroyed the world. They understood the virtues of skepticism and the dangers of blind loyalty. And I see this in the second episode, The Cranbox That Talked. Let's go back to the ending. After all the crayons fill the school with their spiteful doodles, the fairy Rarf Mother returns all the drawings to the paper, and the crayons witness the beauty of their coalition. Then we hear the now famous poem, The Crayon Box That Talked. And I think it's worth listening to.
The crayon box had something more to say. I do like red, said Orange. And Green said, so do I. And Blue, you were terrific, so high up in the sky. We are a box of crayons, each one of us unique. But when we get together, the picture is complete.
Despite what mediocre men might say, diversity is our strength. Oops, spilled my tea. We are best when we are varied. We don't all make the same mistakes, and we have a lot to learn about ourselves from other people that lead wildly different lives from ours. Sometimes being big is better, and sometimes being small has its advantage. We won't always like each other, but that doesn't mean we can't be friends to some extent. It beats apathy, which is a dangerous vice because it allows bad things to build up. And if we allow such conformity to build up and mandate our existence, we lose a lot of people to supremacist idealism. A lot of my friends would be harmed, myself included. And I'd rather keep us all out of yesterday's zoo. Zazu U is one of my new favorite finds. You'd think that it was like my favorite show growing up based on how I'm talking about it, but no, back when it first aired, I watched 2 minutes of it and changed the channel. I thought it sucked, and it kind of scared me. But I was 5 years old. Chef Boyardee scared me. And I wasn't alone in my disdain. Author Hal Erickson wrote a review in the television cartoon show Illustrated Encyclopedia that describes Zazu U as a socially conscious Fox Weekly, but claims that his 6-year-old son insisted that he change the channel. And chances are his instincts were correct. Oh hey, Zoran Space Boy. Many critics loved Zazu U for its fresh weirdness presenting wholesome lessons. For example, in 1991, Miriam Horn in the US News and World Report writes, "The show has none of the bland, homogenized quality typical of contemporary cartoons, most of which are produced by creative committees and marketing teams." There was high hope for this thing to take off. In the same article, it's announced that Fox Kids is working on a series of 10-minute shorts called Harry Tales that have Zazu U characters performing songs and stories from around the world. This project never happened. And Zazu U tanked in the ratings. Kids just didn't latch on. They like weird things, but there has to be some consistency to its surrealism. Zazu U is too erratic in its pace, and it's dependent on verbal humor that might bore or intimidate children. And to be honest, it's kinda hard to look at. All that lo-fi animation full of errors does get exhausting to watch after a while. On January 23rd of 1991, Zazu U was put on hiatus and replaced by Peter Pan and the Pirates.
Boy!
According to Variety, during November sweeps, the cartoon barely cracked a 1.0 on the Nielsen ratings, which is pretty bad for a new series during the most watched time of the year. When Zazu U did return to the airwaves, it had been moved to the early morning time slot, where all bad cartoons are put out to pasture. The show was cancelled after episode 11, leaving the final 2 episodes unaired. We didn't get to see Boink Rap until the show was put on syndication on Boomerang and Jetix throughout the years, which is probably where a lot of kids first saw this show and thought, well, that was interesting. After cancellation, Shane DeRolf worked with Fox Kids to design some of the iconic bumpers of the early 90s.
While walking in a toy store the day before today, I overheard a crayon box with many things to say.
Then he returned to publishing, where in 1997, he released The Crayon Box That Talked as a standalone book. A short-lived puppet show based on the book premiered later that year. DeRolf went on to produce The Big Green Rabbit for PBS Kids, the What's on Your Mind ad campaign for the Energy Council, and nowadays runs multiple web-based children's educational programs, including Animalooza, which is not the spiritual successor of Zazu U. At some point, he also worked in the marketing team that made Pogs a big deal in the 90s, so there's that connection. Hey, remember Pogs? They're back, in Pog form. And NFTs, oh, fuck that shit. Oh, also, let's go back to that US News and World Report article. It references a project pitched by DeRolf called Trogs, like an educational version of Ninja Turtles. And I am disappointed that these things did not get greenlit. Look at these stupid little things. I love them. Trogs may be entering the fray, yeah, bloody likely. History was not so kind to Zazu U. I never see anyone mention it aside from nostalgia bait articles. Cartoons you've never heard of. Well, now you've heard of it because I told you about it. Even the Lost Media people never mention the missing episodes. Apologies if you did, but I've seen like 50 videos about a lost Polish dub of Backyardigans or some crap like that, and not one about this historically significant TV show. Come on, YouTubers, step up your game. Sure, it fumbled in the ratings and failed to get an audience and was generally not that good and made some children cry, but I think it deserved better. It was part of a new wave of Saturday morning that sparked a total shift in entertainment. Zazu U wasn't the first to employ postmodern thinking. I'd argue that the new Mighty Mouse and Muppet Babies had comfortably integrated meta humor into their structures. Muppet Babies even utilized live-action stock footage as both a cost-cutting technique and as an intertextuality device. Alongside Zazu U, other cartoons were inspired by postmodernism, such as Bobby's World and Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, both on Fox, as well as Ren and Stimpy and Rocko's Modern Life on Nickelodeon. And let's not forget, take a shot, Simpsons. Oh, and let me add in here really quick, all those Steven Spielberg cartoons, Tiny Toons, Animaniacs, Freakazoid, they all have their own postmodern elements and cultural references. So I just had to add those really quick, or I'd be kicking myself about it later. In following years, even more cartoons jumped on the movement, such as Eek the Cat, The Tick, numerous What a Cartoon cartoons, and for the adult audience, Duckman, The Critic, and Dr. Katz, if you remember that one. At the same time, though, mass-marketable kids shows made a return with hyped-up budget properties like Power Rangers and Pokemon. I'm sure if Zazu U had been a hit, DeRolf would have pumped out a landfill's worth of licensed merch, but really, how do you slap one of these bizarro fuckers on a shirt or a lunchbox? Oh, like that. I don't know how to explain it, but I can smell this image. But postmodern deconstruction continued through Y2K through shows like South Park, Family Guy, basically any adult cartoon, and of course, most famously of all, SpongeBob SquarePants, which I think marked the beginning of the postmodern cartoon, where cynicism plays second fiddle to whimsy, a return to subversive humor with elements of sarcasm and satire. So I'm not going to pretend that Zazu U is some lost treasure that inspired generations of animation, but it's a great specimen of its era, a lodestone that marks the turning point in children's entertainment, and if nothing else, it brought forth some important existential affirmations. At the heart of the show, and etched above the school's entrance, is the message, you matter. And it's true, you do matter.
What does matter? Never mind.
Thanks for sticking with me. Next time I round out my Fox Kids trilogy by analyzing a very strange episode of Bobby's World. So don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the very smart things I have to say. Play me out, preview guys.